This guy was arrested within 20 minutes. A witness identified him instantly. She didn't hesitate, she didn't doubt, she was certain. There was just one problem. She was wrong. Tonight, we're not looking at corruption, we're not looking at lies, we're looking at something quieter. An assumption that felt accurate enough to stop police from searching any further. Because once someone says, "That's him," the brain stops asking questions. Officers stop scanning alternatives. Evidence starts orbiting certainty. And this case wasn't built on proof. It was built on confidence. The kind of confidence that convinces everyone they've already found the truth. But what happens when certainty locks in too early? And how many investigations collapse because doubt never got a chance?
This guy was identified. He was arrested. He matched the description perfectly. Height, build, clothing, direction of escape. There was just one problem. The witness was wrong. Not lying, not pressured, not confused, just certain. And that certainty almost destroyed an innocent man's life. We want to believe justice fails because of corruption, because of negligence, because of malice. But sometimes it fails because someone believed what they saw, and what they saw wasn't real. It started on an ordinary evening, a convenience store on a quiet residential street. Fluorescent lights humming softly above the aisles, a clerk counting change, a customer browsing the back shelf. Nothing dramatic, nothing suspicious, just routine. Then the door burst open. A man rushed in, grabbed the register, shoved the clerk, and ran. No weapon fired, no prolonged struggle, just chaos compressed into seconds, and then silence. There was one witness, a woman standing near the refrigeration section. She didn't scream, she didn't freeze, she watched. And when police arrived, she spoke clearly. Mid-30s, dark jacket, short hair, medium build. He ran east. Her voice didn't shake. Her details felt steady, reliable. Officers wrote everything down, and within 20 minutes, they found him. 3 blocks away, jogging, sweating, wearing a dark jacket, short hair, mid-30s. He looked startled when officers approached, confused, out of breath. To responding officers, the logic aligned instantly. To the witness, it felt certain. They brought her to the patrol car. Is this the man? She looked. No hesitation. That's him. 3 words. Simple, decisive, final. That moment changed everything. Because once someone says, "That's him," the brain doesn't keep searching. It stops, and the investigation narrows. He protested, said he had been jogging, said he didn't know anything about the store, said he had just left his apartment. But innocence sounds the same as guilt when the narrative is already forming. Officers noticed he seemed nervous, defensive, speaking quickly. But nervous is not proof, defensive is not evidence, and speaking quickly is what innocent people do when they're terrified. But something subtle had already happened. The witness had anchored the case. Her certainty became the foundation. Everything else would now be interpreted through it. This is called confirmation bias, when the mind looks for information that confirms what it already believes and ignores what complicates it. Did he have a dark jacket? Yes. Did he have short hair? Yes. Was he running nearby? Yes. Did he seem unsettled? Yes. Each yes felt like proof, but none of them were identity. Human memory is not a camera, it is a storyteller. When we recall events, we reconstruct them. We fill in gaps, we smooth edges, we strengthen details that feel important. And when a suspect is presented, the brain adjusts the memory to fit, seamlessly, silently, confidently. The witness wasn't lying, she wasn't malicious, she genuinely believed she saw him, and belief is powerful. In fact, studies show something disturbing. Confidence and accuracy are not strongly linked. The more someone repeats a memory, the more certain they become, even if the memory is flawed. Days passed, the case solidified, charges were prepared. The prosecution built around her identification. There was no DNA, no fingerprints linking him directly, no clear footage of his face. But there was something juries trust deeply: a confident witness. Surveillance footage from the store was blurry, the suspect's face barely visible, but the clothing matched. Dark jacket, running, short hair. It felt consistent. It felt aligned. It felt right. But feeling right is not the same as being right. Weeks later, a routine evidence audit occurred. No dramatic new tip, no whistleblower, just standard procedure. A traffic camera 2 streets away had captured someone running. The same dark jacket, the same build. The timestamp seemed irrelevant at first. But someone noticed something. The time didn't align. It was off. 3 minutes. Just 3. Which doesn't matter unless distance matters, unless timing matters, unless the jogger was already farther down the street before the crime even happened. 3 minutes meant something devastating. It meant he could not have been inside the store. It meant the witness had seen someone else, someone similar, someone unremarkable, someone who fit the mental image her brain had formed. Clothing is not identity. Haircut is not identity. Running is not identity. But under stress, the brain looks for the closest match, and once it finds it, it locks in. The charges were dropped, quietly. No press spectacle, no public apology, just paperwork. But damage does not disappear with paperwork. He lost weeks of his life, his job suspended, his name whispered in his neighborhood, his family questioned, all because certainty arrived too quickly. The witness cried when she learned the truth, not because she lied, but because she believed, and believing felt like betrayal.
People asked the wrong question. They asked how the mistake happened. They asked who failed. They asked whether protocol had been ignored. But the real question was quieter. Why did certainty feel stronger than doubt? Investigators revisited the timeline, not to find violence, but to understand the moment confidence locked in. Minute by minute, question by question, they studied the identification process, the lighting conditions, the distance, the angle, the stress response. What they discovered was uncomfortable. The witness had done exactly what most humans would do. Under stress, the brain narrows. It prioritizes survival over precision. Peripheral details fade. Central features blur. We don't store exact faces. We store impressions. A jacket, a posture, a movement pattern. And when police later present a suspect who fits that impression, the brain connects the dots, even if the dots belong to someone else. This is called pattern completion, when the mind fills in missing details using expectation. It feels like memory. It feels authentic. It feels undeniable. But it is reconstruction. There was another detail investigators had overlooked. The witness had briefly seen a patrol officer speaking with the detained man before her formal identification. Just a glance. Just enough. That small exposure may have influenced her memory, not consciously, but subtly. This is known as unconscious transference. When a familiar face is mistakenly associated with a different context, the brain merges them seamlessly. When they reconstructed that sequence, the realization was chilling. The identification wasn't malicious. It wasn't reckless. It was human. The innocent man struggled after his release. Even though charges were dropped, suspicion lingers longer than paperwork. Neighbors remembered the patrol cars, not the dismissal. Employers remembered the arrest, not the audit. Innocence restores legal status. It doesn't erase narrative. He later described the experience in one sentence. I kept waiting for someone to realize they were wrong. But no one feels wrong when certainty is guiding them. Certainty feels responsible. It feels protective. It feels like action. This is why eyewitness misidentification remains one of the leading contributors to wrongful convictions. Because it doesn't require corruption. It doesn't require incompetence. It requires belief. And belief is powerful. In fact, research shows something deeply unsettling. The more confident a witness appears in court, the more persuasive they become to jurors. Even when accuracy does not increase, confidence influences credibility. Credibility influences verdicts. Verdicts shape lives. Why does the brain trust confidence so deeply?
Because historically, confidence signaled knowledge. In ancestral environments, hesitation could mean danger. Decisiveness meant survival. But in modern investigations, decisiveness can mean error. The real suspect was never identified. Not that year, not later. The man who actually fled the store dissolved back into anonymity. He never knew how close justice had come, and how far it had drifted. Investigators admitted something quietly. Once the witness made the identification, they stopped looking as aggressively. Not consciously, but psychologically. They had resolution, and resolution reduces urgency. Why search harder when the answer feels found? This is the danger of early certainty. It narrows perspective. It compresses alternatives. It silences doubt. And doubt, in investigations, is not weakness. It is protection. There is another uncomfortable truth. If the traffic camera timestamp had not been reviewed, the case would have proceeded. A trial would have occurred. A jury would have seen a confident witness. They would have seen a man who matched the description, and they might have convicted him. Not because they were careless, but because they were human.
Justice systems are built on evidence, but evidence is interpreted by minds, and minds are influenced by bias. Bias does not announce itself loudly. It whispers, it aligns, it reassures. It says, "This makes sense." The witness carried guilt long after. She replayed the moment in the patrol car, the way she said, "That's him," the certainty in her voice. She asked herself whether she hesitated, whether she rushed, whether she missed something. But memory does not reveal its own distortion. It feels whole. Investigators changed their procedure afterward. Double-blind lineups, sequential presentations, stricter documentation. Because the problem wasn't the witness, it was the structure around her. Systems must compensate for human limitation, or else human limitation becomes systemic error. There is a lesson here, not about distrust, but about humility. Humility in perception, humility in memory, humility in confidence. The most dangerous assumption is not that someone is guilty, it is that we cannot be wrong. Witnesses are essential. They provide direction, context, urgency, but their role must be supported by safeguards, because no one intends to misidentify, yet misidentification happens, often. And here is the final uncomfortable question. If you had stood in that store, if you had watched someone run, if officers had brought a suspect to you, would you have hesitated? Or would you have said with certainty, "That's him"? The most dangerous mistakes are not born from malice. They are born from conviction. The kind of conviction that feels right, feels responsible, feels necessary. And once conviction locks in, even professionals stop searching. This case was corrected because of 3 minutes, 3 overlooked minutes on a timestamp. But what about the cases where nothing interrupts certainty? What about the identifications never re-examined? What about the assumptions never challenged? Confidence is persuasive, but truth is patient, and justice depends on knowing the difference. Because sometimes the witness isn't lying, they're remembering, and memory is not the same thing as truth.